So you've been thinking about building your own deer hunting box blind, but you don't know how big to build it. Well, that's what this video is for. I'm hoping to give you some ideas that you can take away from it to build your own and build it the right size. If you're one of those people that don't think that this is deer hunting, or if it's an unfair advantage for deer hunting, and you think you should just be out, sitting on a bucket or in the ground or in a tree, whatever, that's fine. But if you don't like this kind of hunting, then go watch a different video or go to a different channel. This is not the channel for you. This is kind of what I do on my channel, mostly deer hunting and deer hunting blinds. And so if you don't like that, rather than just make a negative comment, just quit and go somewhere else and watch another video. It's that easy. But if you want to build one and you want to try and figure out how big to build it, or you want to know that you're building it the right size before you get started, I think the main thing that you need to consider is how many people are going to be hunting out of it. Is it going to be just you? Is it going to be you and a kid? 2 kids? Your 2 kids and your wife? Your elderly parent? That's probably the number one determining factor. And if you're going to build it and have, plan on having 2 people, you want to be at least 6 by 6, even 6 by 8. But let's jump back to the 4 by 4. I'm going to start with the small size stands and we'll go up to the bigger, work our way up to the bigger ones. 4 by 4, it's enough to fit you and basically block the wind. And you can cut sheets of plywood in half. It's probably one of the least expensive if you're building with all new lumber. So a 4 by 4 is a good size if you just need a windbreak out there somewhere and you just take your rifle with and you're going to go sit for a couple hours and you just need some protection from the wind or whatever. You can't really shoot a compound bow out of a 4 by 4. You can shoot a rifle and a crossbow, but in a 4 by 4 you're going to have not much room for a heater, not much room for your backpack. You can fit those things in there, but you're going to be a little too close to that heater, or you're going to be kicking it with your feet and clunking. So I don't recommend a 4 by 4 if you're going to have anything else other than you and a rifle. It's just getting pretty tight. The next size up would be a 5 by 5, and that is big enough for one person. I still don't think it's going to be roomy enough to draw a compound bow. You could probably do it, but you're going to be probably likely to clunk your elbow on the back side or hit your bow on the front side. It doesn't work out that great when you're cutting sheets of plywood on a 5-foot piece, so I'm not going to spend much time on 5 feet. If you're going to build a 5 by 5, you might as well go 6 by 6. 6 by 6 is my favorite size. I think a 6 by 6 is good because I'm a compound bow shooter. I can draw in a 6 by 6. I can have an office chair in the middle. I can spin around and shoot out several different windows. If you haven't seen my octagon hunting blind build videos, maybe check those out. But anyway, I like that 6 by 6 because when I'm bow hunting, I've got the room to do what I need. I've got room to put a heater in there. I can set my backpack. If I wanted to bring a kid along or another person, you can get 2 people in a 6 by 6 and still be kind of comfortable. You can't get 2 full-size office chairs in there and spin around on them, but you can have 2 people in there if you want to, bring someone along to hunt with you. Ideally, if you're going to have 2 people hunting out of the same blind all the time, I would go bigger than 6 by 6. But overall, that's my favorite for me when I'm solo hunting, whether it's with a gun or a compound bow. You'd be fine with a crossbow, compound bow, or rifle if you build it and you get your ceiling high enough so that when you're drawn back, you're not clunking on the ceiling. Another thing I like to do is have all of mine about, at least 6.5 feet on the inside. I'm 6'3", and I like to stand up and stretch once in a while. And also when I'm getting in and out, I don't want to be clunking my head, especially if it's dark. So 6 by 6 with a 6.5 foot ceiling is my favorite size, especially if it's just for me. So the next size up would be, I suppose, the 6 by 8. If you build them in 2-foot increments, it just makes sense with lumber that way. The one behind me here is a 6 by 8. I did a full tour of this blind. I did a lot of it out of materials that I had laying around. And that's another thing that I consider when I'm building a blind. What have I got laying around? Have I got a bunch of 12-foot boards? Have I got a bunch of 8-foot boards? Have I got a bunch of 6-foot boards? I'll kind of sometimes I'll make the decision on how big the blind's going to be based off the material that I've already got laying around. Because I like saving money when I'm building these. Not everybody wants to just drop $1,000 on some of these things if you don't have to. If you've got the stuff laying around and you can use it, it makes sense. So this is a 6 by 8. This is my favorite size for 2 people. This is big enough where I can have 2 full-size office chairs in there. Me and another person can sit side by side. I could bring 2 kids with and it'd be fine. And what I like about that is it's 6 foot deep and 8 foot wide. And that gives you room to sit shoulder to shoulder or side by side. Got room to get a heater in front of me in there. This one actually has a cubby in the front for my heater. I wouldn't have had to do that, but it was an add-on that I wanted to try. But anyway, you've got room for a heater, you've got room for a couple different backpacks, a couple different weapons. If you hunt by yourself, there's still enough room to get, a compound bow draw at 6 feet. If you hunt by yourself with a rifle, it's fine. I'm not so far back from the windows. It might be a little tough if I'm sitting on one end or the other. In a 6x8, I'll try and sit in the middle and I can still see out of the windows for the most part. So I like that about it. Once you get into that 8x8, you almost have to be in one corner or the other. But jumping back to the 6x8, I think it's an all-around really good right size for two people to hunt out of very comfortably with office chairs. You can sit all day. You got a little room to spread out. You're not clunking the walls. So 6x8 for two, I think, is the way to go. The next size I'm going to talk about is the 8 foot by 8 foot, and I'll end it there. On these group pages, I've seen some really nice 8x8 blinds built. I've never built one before. I've hunted out of them, and they're great. Some people go way bigger than that, 12 by 12 or whatever. If you want to turn it into a cabin, that's great. Go for it. I'm just going to end the sizes at 8x8 because I've hunted out of one, and I know what I like and I don't like about it. Now, with that 8x8 is great because you've got more room than you're going to need. You can bring all kinds of people. You can fit your chairs in there. Heck, you can put bunks in there. You got room for the backpacks, room for the heaters, room for your guns and your crossbows or whatever weapons that you're hunting out of. But one of the things that I found is that especially if you're by yourself, you really can't cover everything out of the windows because you're just a little too far away from those windows or the walls. Unless you've got glass all the way to the floor, you're going to have blind spots. You're just not going to be able to see everything that's out there. And that's probably, I think, the main thing I don't care for about an 8x8. If I'm going to have, guests with, I think I could get by with a 6x8. But again, 8x8 is nice because you can, that's what that plywood comes in 4x8 sheets. So you can build it and be very efficient with your lumber on an 8x8. So it makes sense to do it that way. And again, you're probably going to regret building it too small, but almost never regret building it too big. And I think the blind spots would be the only thing that you would find that you don't like about it if you're like hunting like I do and you like to see. And that kind of brings me on another bit of a tangent. Put big windows in there. Just put some big windows in the thing. There's no reason to put these little dinky windows unless you're hunting right in the middle of a food plot and you can't be caught being moved at all. I don't know why the windows would need to be so small. You're not going to be able to get out of that stand if you're right in the middle of a food plot without spooking the deer. I like to go a lot of windows. I want to have glass all the way around. I want to see. You can always add curtains if you feel like your windows are too big, but I don't like sitting in a blind all day and staring at plywood walls. I want to see what's out there. So I do recommend also going with bigger and more windows, regardless of the size of the hunting blind that you build.